2 mask coverings that must be made for those for whom it is not possible due to medical conditions, disability, impact, or other health and safety factors. So we just added the disability and changed the wording to or not possible if it to make that adhere to the DESE guidelines. In the 4th paragraph, we added that face masks or face coverings may not be required during outdoor band, chorus, physical education, or recess as long as 10 feet of distancing is ensured. And again, that adheres to the DESE guidelines because, as you can imagine, band and chorus are not possible if a mask is on. So what DESE allows is for outdoor playing of instruments, singing, physical education, recess, and masks do not have to be worn as long as there is 10 feet of physical distancing. And then in the next paragraph, the nurses just added this piece that we would have face masks available for all school staff and for students for whom either they forget their mask or their mask becomes dirty or soiled. And I think there's just, then the last thing is, previously it said that neck gaiters may be appropriate during certain athletic activities. I wanted to drive your attention to the fact that many districts are not allowing neck gaiters during athletic activities because of CDC guidance. The CDC does not recommend the use of gaiters or face shields alone without a mask. And I put in the document that many of our surrounding districts, Medway, Ashland, Medfield, Westwood, Bellingham, and Holliston, are not allowing gaiters. So it's our recommendation that neck gaiters not be allowed during athletic activities. They're not sufficient because they often are just 1 layer instead of 2 layers.
Nancy, I don't see the edits. Is it the one that's in our packet doesn't have these edits?
It's called.
There's one on top, Care, that like sorry, Madam Chair. There's a suggested edits. There's a suggested edits one that should be right on top in the folder.
5B.
That's the one that has it.
Thank you.
Yeah, rather than put all the suggested edits in the original document, I created one with just some suggested edits. Yep. And then finally in the paragraph about what will happen if there is a violation of this policy, the building principal will consult with the parents and guardians, and the student may be removed from the school building for in-person learning. And that is important because it'll be a case-by-case situation, but principals need to have the authority to not have the student in the building if that is the case. But we also want to give them the leeway of saying, well, in this certain circumstance, perhaps the student is just isolated, or give them leeway in making those accommodations until perhaps a parent can pick them up, etc. So it's changing the will to may be removed.
Got it. Okay, so instead of, so I don't know how this works because we've already done the first 2 readings of the previous policy. Mark or Steve, do you know what?
Yeah, so we can, so there can be edits. So what we can do is we can discuss these edits and decide which ones we want to keep or not. And then we can read as the 3rd reading, incorporating the edits. And that's the one that will be adopted. So whatever we read as the third reading will be
The policy.
the policy.
Okay, so then why don't we just go through these suggested edits now? So if I'm looking at the first one, face mask or face coverings will not be required during outdoor band, chorus, physical education, or recess as long as 10 feet distance is ensured.
Madam Chair, we have to go up to the top. The first edit is the
Oh,
Millis
sorry.
Board of Health.
So the Millis Board of Health edit, are we all good with that one?
Yes.
The second edit adds the word disability. So in addition, mask or face coverings will not be required for anyone who has a medical, behavioral disability or other challenge. So they've added the word disability. Any issues with the word disability?
No.
Or do we want to discuss that? Sorry, and I keep switching back and forth to screens because I can't exactly see all you guys. Okay.
No, fine with that.
Okay, so
Fine with
then
that.
we'll go to the next one, face mask or face coverings. And they add, and the addition is during outdoor band.
Actually,
chorus,
Oh,
Can we-
there's one more. Sorry, Madam Chair.
please.
There's another.
you.
So yeah, right after disability or other challenge, making it unsafe or not possible was an addition.
Yep,
And then I'm going to just go to the next one too. A written note from a physician specific for rationale may be required for a requested exemption. Those two are actually the ones I'd like to talk about.
okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, so I just have a concern, and I know we had some discussion around this when we first talked about the mask policy, which is we really didn't want to put the onus on the teacher. It was either the student is able to wear a mask or they have an exception where they're not able to wear a mask. So the or not possible component adds some gray in there that I'm just uncomfortable with. So I feel as if there are students that for all of the reasons that are listed up above, medical, behavioral disability or other, making it a challenge, I don't think it's too much for us to ask for us to get a note at requesting the exemption. So I would be in favor of removing those two edits right there, the or not possible or the may be required. I would like to require a note, and I would be flexible. It doesn't have to be from a physician. It could be from
Caregiver,
a practitioner,
yes.
someone like doesn't necessarily have to be a physician. It could be someone that works with the student, but someone in a professional capacity, not just a parent, because I really am concerned about people that are not supportive of wearing masks just for the fact of not wanting to wear a mask, having any leeway to be able to not wear a mask for any other reason than medical behavioral disability.
Madam Chair, and I agree with that 100%. The only situation is we may be then asking for a note for somebody for whom we know has a known disability and is on an IEP. And so what you said applies to almost every situation except for the students on IEPs and with a known disability that might make it difficult, and I'm thinking maybe instead of a note from it, it's really a diagnosis of what the disability is that might make it impossible for a student, say on the Asperger's spectrum, to comply with the mask wearing at all times.
I think if that's the case, the student would be able to get a note from somebody, right? That just states that it could be difficult for them to wear a mask. We're not trying to make it hard for people with disabilities to not wear masks. Like Denise said, we're just trying to make it so there's no gray area. So as long as they're able to, again, it doesn't have to be their physician. It could be just like she said, somebody in professional capacity. They can write a note that says due to their disability or circumstances, this child's not able to wear a mask at all times, or maybe isn't able to wear a mask at all. and that should be fine.
So that would be, and I wish this is an instance where, you know, our Director of Student Services is not on the call, but I'm thinking that for a student with a disability, that we have the documentation on file for, then that note might be from the teacher in the district that is working with that student.
Denise, the rest of the committee, are you comfortable with that?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Conroy.
I guess the question I would is if there's, and I could be wrong, but is there not usually a diagnosis, or, and maybe not in all cases, but in cases of disability and what the examples that maybe you're thinking of, wouldn't we have a diagnosis kind of as a basis for an IEP? And would that not then just trigger the fact that if it's not possible, you know, we would already have some indication of what the diagnosis and what the implications are?
Right. So it does say a written note from a physician. So it maybe that's the part that needs to be modified, because when I read that, it implies that a physician would have to write a note specifically about giving permission to not wear a mask. Whereas I guess what I'm saying is, by nature of certain disabilities, that should be sufficient, given our knowledge of the disability and the student, to make the determination that, of course, we'll work toward mask wearing, but it wouldn't require an additional note from a physician. Yeah, and yes, you're correct that our documentation should be enough.
I don't know if this helps or hurts, but if we added the phrase "a written note from a physician or medical therapeutic specialist specific for rationale," that's how we refer to them when we look at them in our budget. That's how they're referred to in the state organization. In other words, if they're an OT, if they're a PT, speech, something like that, they're all lumped under that term.
That would work for me.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Terry, what's that language again?
Medical therapeutic specialist. And that would be an educational professional that, again, is dealing with OT, PT, or speech.
Okay. The rest of the committee, are you all okay with this? Just thumbs up is fine. Okay.
So
I'm
Madam
good
Chair, we would disability would stay, or other challenge, making it unsafe or not possible to wear a face mask or covering, a written note from a physician or medical therapeutic specialist specific for rationale. Can we change may be to is required for a requested exemption?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody
we
okay
can
with
change that
that?
back to is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nancy, does that work? Are
Yeah.
you comfortable with that too, Nancy?
Yes, yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So that is all of the changes in that paragraph. And then now we go down to the point where face masks or face coverings will not be required in the addition of during outdoor band, chorus, physical education, or recess, as long as 10 feet distancing is ensured. Do you want to discuss this one?
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Conroy.
I guess the question I have, not band and chorus, but physical education and recess. I guess I just wonder whether we think it's reasonable that we're going to be able to actually monitor 10 feet distance. Maybe PE will be easier, but because you'll just have to determine what activities and know how far away the kids are going to be, but who's going to monitor recess and determine 10 feet distance is assured.
Yeah,
Madam Chair, I have the same concern. PE, I feel as if, especially in a hybrid model, even though I know we're building this for longer term than that, but especially in a hybrid model, the PE numbers should be small enough where the teacher could manage the 10 feet. But recess, I
yeah.
feel like that's asking a lot, and especially in the younger kids. I mean, because I guess they're the only ones that have recess and not middle high. But
Yeah, I agree. I'm not comfortable with the recess one, but could go with the physical education one. Robin and Steve, are you guys?
I'm with that. I
Yeah.
understand.
I agree with that too.
Nancy and team, are you guys okay with that?
I would love to have Tana and Elise chime in, although I hate to put you on the spot. I think recess is a time that kids, we will be training them how to engage in recess and what is possible. And I think recess should be a time like a mask break where they can be outside as long as they're the recommended distance apart. Do you guys want to chime in?
I agree that it should be a mask break. However, if 10 feet is the requirement, I think it would be very difficult for us to ensure 10 feet during recess because we will have larger numbers and we'll have appropriate staffing for recess. However, I don't think we would have enough staffing to ensure 10 feet distance.
Okay, so let's strike the recess part of that, but keep the PE in there. Okay,
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
can we add one other thing? Can we also add that teachers who are teaching remotely in a classroom by themselves?
Mhm.
Yes, good
point.
Yep.
point.
Yep.
Yes. So yes, we can. I agree. Robin and Steve, do you have any issues with that?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Yes, let's add that. And I should say, so we can do the final reading after this. Is somebody writing this down?
Yeah, I can see Nancy editing it. I was about to do it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, and I'm thinking it just staff, we should broaden it to staff who are alone in a room. Because,
Teachers or staff or teachers. Yes. Yep. Fine with
staff who are alone in a room don't have to wear a mask.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll go down to the next one. We just added the text and for students whose mask becomes soiled.
So in the explanation of this, we actually used, they don't have one, it got destroyed or soiled. So I think we need to kind of expand, and for students whose mask or who don't have a mask, their mask was destroyed or is soiled. So if we're going to be specific, the explanation provided other examples. So, or we could just say, and for students who need one. That may be the simplest
or
thing.
masks that become unusable.
But then if they forgot one and they're off the bus,
Yeah.
we're not going to turn it. We're not going to turn a kid around.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. Yeah.
Just say for students who need them.
I agree, and that's going to be our practice. I am wondering if you want to put it in policy.
Because then technically we're on the hook for any student that needs them.
Okay, so a student doesn't come up, what are we going to do?
We're going to have a mask for them.
But by the way, this was an addition from the admin team. We just said for all
Yeah, no,
staff.
Right.
You guys added this.
Well, but they added it. The sticking point is if we don't clarify that in essence it would be their second, it's basically saying that we are responsible for providing them if they just show up without one, which
So why don't we
inherently,
say, and for students who don't have one, because that doesn't fit, not having one is not covered by, it's destroyed or soiled.
correct. But if the concern is if we leave it generically that they don't show up, it takes the onus off of parents to provide any.
Okay.
So are we okay with just adding "and" for students whose masks become soiled?
Yeah, I did.
If
I
we
did
want
like.
to, if it's destroyed, if destroyed is covered under soiled, I guess that's fine.
Well,
If
that's
rip-
what I was going to say.
How
I
about-
thought
Unusable.
I think
I-
unusable. Let's just say unusable.
That's fine.
I like unusable.
Yeah,
I think it's a broader term.
thank you.
Let's use that.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay.
We can strike the next one, neck gaiters.
Yeah, yeah.
Strike it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Happy to not have any of that. I didn't think we had that in there, so I was actually like, oof. Yes, no, thank you to neck gaiters.
Okay. So we're good with that one. And then the word "may" being added to one of the last paragraphs. The student may be removed from the school building.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
I guess I appreciate giving discretion to the principals to kind of manage the situation, but absent medical disability, et cetera, that we highlighted above, I don't understand a circumstance where a student would be allowed, or staff for that matter, would be allowed to be on premises without a mask if it was outside of anything that we've just gone through as exceptions. So, I mean, I can appreciate, principal calls the parents, tries to have a conversation with the student to put a mask on, student refuses to. I don't see a scenario why this would be a may and not an is. But that's me.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Nancy.
I think we just, so if it's in policy that the student will be removed, that ties the hands of our administrators. And I think we have to trust them that, one, they will always keep other students safe. They could isolate this student or whatever, but they need to be able to have a little bit of discretion, because otherwise it could come back to bite them in terms of, there were extenuating circumstances and we know those, but we can't speak to those because it's disciplinary. And so other parents, may be, refer to the policy and just say, no, it says you will remove it. And
So then we need to add the student will be isolated and removed from and taken away from other activities of the classroom. What you just said, we can add that. So may be removed if they're not removed, but they're going to at least be isolated.
But that's fine, I guess. Then I just logistically ask, where are we isolating?
I understand.
Right. So the principal would have to figure that out.
So why don't we just add, the student will be isolated and may be removed from the school building. So after the student will be isolated and
Yes.
may be removed.
Yes.
Does that give you enough leeway? But still makes it clear that they can't be in the building without a mask. the rest of the committee okay with that?
I am.
Denise, Robin,
Yeah, that's good.
Denise?
Yeah. I don't like it, but I can live with it. I really just want this, like, it's a mask policy. I really kind of want it to be black and white. You wear a mask, you can stay in the building. You don't wear a mask, you have to leave the building unless you have an exception. And we kind of define the exception. I absolutely respect everybody's ability to be able to navigate this. It just seems like one more thing that we're asking people to navigate. So if we have it specifically outlined so that staff, students, parents all know you have a mask, you can come in the building. You don't have a mask, you have to leave. And if you refuse to put one on, you also have to leave. And isolation is only good for 30 minutes, or like best efforts need to be made to come and pick up children. This would be one reason for that. Also, sickness would be another one. So that's why I have a problem with it. I will go with the majority, but
So can I ask Nancy or maybe any of the admin team? So could you, Nancy, you had mentioned, if there were disciplinary reasons that became extenuating circumstances. I guess I'm trying to understand a scenario where not wearing a mask would be allowed and be deemed related to some other disciplinary issue. I guess, can you walk me through a scenario where we would need the leeway of having students in the building that wouldn't have what are those extenuating circumstances? Obviously, we're not talking about a specific case. Nobody's been in the building. This has nothing to do with anybody, but kind of an example that came through to generate the need.
Well, I'll speak to it and then turn to the principals. What I was thinking was a student who is distraught, dysregulating, having a meltdown, really needs to de-escalate, something like that. If school personnel might be the best people to help that person do that. I don't know if principals want to chime in. Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of scenario where if you did have a kid that was so dysregulated at the moment, they're not going to budge. But sometimes, if you know the kid, sometimes a little time to de-escalate, and then you can get the desired result. That's a scenario I could imagine.
So I guess I would take that scenario as, trying to work through the situation, kind of akin to what I mentioned earlier of picking up the phone and calling the parents, have the parents try and talk through. Like, there's a period of time that you're trying to get compliance before having to have them leave the building. So I guess that's where, and it's good, just explicitly say it. And intuitively, I had it in my head that this wasn't a kid doesn't wear a mask and they're out the door in 5 minutes. There's some conversation, there's some attempts, and if that's going to go nowhere, then they have to leave. Not so in that scenario, it would be you address the de-escalation. If you can get beyond that and they put their mask back on, then they stay. And if they don't, or you're not successful in de-escalation, then yes, they have to leave. So I guess it's if I read this.
Madam Chair, I
Yes.
think what we don't want to get into is the idea of this zero tolerance that, the kid refused, they're out of here. That, and that as Mr. Conroy just explained, there might be a good period where the principal's working with the student in their office probably, or in the office area that, or trying to isolate them, much like we do with behaviors when kids dysregulate. So as I think, I think if we leave it in, will be removed, it could appear to the public or people who don't know the situation that, oh, I saw a kid without a mask, and why aren't they thrown out, and out of the building?
But even with those scenarios that you just talked about, the children or the kids wouldn't be allowed back into class, right? So at no point, except for medical issues, and we've all said that if a child is being de-escalated, I think that's the word, they're going to be isolated in an office or the nurse's office or an admin team, and they're going to be actively working with them to try to fix the situation. So there shouldn't be any time where a kid is walking down the hallway with no mask just because they, are having a disciplinary issue, right? So I just don't know if we need to, do we need to put that in there, or is it just, is it implied? Of course, we expect the admin team to work through issues and give leeway to do that and to do their jobs and to work with the kids. I think it's just that there's nobody will be allowed in the building without exceptions, without a mask. And that was the intent of the policy or of that wording.
Okay.
So I think we're back to just leave it as it is.
Well, I have it as will be isolated and may be removed. Is that acceptable?
How about will be isolated and will be removed if not compliant? Or do we just leave it as will be removed? Well, I'm trying to think of a compromise wording. Will be isolated if, I don't know, I guess I'm looking for some help from the other committee members.
Yeah, I wonder if it's will be isolated while compliance attempts are made. I'm trying to think. So I'm trying to give people the ability to go through the process. And then if that's unsuccessful, then they need to leave the building. So I guess it's.
How about just if unsuccessful will be removed?
What the parents.
What if it says, if students are in violation of this policy, the principal will consult with the student and parent/guardian, period. And then, if the student, and then just the student will be removed from the school building. Maybe it says, if that is unsuccessful, the student will be removed from the school building for in-person learning. So it addresses that there will be consultation between the principal and the entire family. And if that's not successful, the student will be removed.
I can support that.
I think that works.
That would
I
work
can
for me.
support that. Yep.
Can you repeat it, Mr. Conroy?
Sure. So it break it into two sentences. The first, if students are in violation of the policy, the building principal will consult with the student and parent/guardians, period.
Period. Okay.
If that is unsuccessful, the student will be removed from the school building. And keep the rest of the sentence.
Okay.
Okay. Looks like that was the last edit.
Yes.
Mr. Mulaney put something into the chat. Principal or designee.
Good idea.
Thank
That
you.
is a good idea. I have one other suggestion.
Yes.
In the very last line, it says the policy will remain in place until modified or rescinded. I'm wondering if you want it to read modified or suspended. if you rescind a policy, it no longer exists. But you may want to suspend this policy because you may have a time where you don't need a mask policy, but I hate to say it, down the road, a future school committee may need one again.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Me too.
That's
Yep.
fine.
Great
That makes
suggestion.
sense.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
All right, do we want to do the final reading?
We need the updated doc.
It's on the Google.
I think I've captured it all in the document 5B where it says suggested edits to
Right,
the
so
Millis
we
mask.
go
Here,
into
I'll
the
send it
folder.
to you.
Will it be
I'll
in the
send it to
folder?
you.
It's in the folder, document
Oh,
5B.
Oh, yeah, it's there. Yep. Thanks,
Oh,
Nancy.
there
I
we
mean,
go.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good with the Google. I'll
With
find
the
it.
Google.
Nope, that's not it.
5B.
Hold on.
B. 5B is in boy.
Hold on. Yes. Yep. All the other. Okay, Madam Chair.
Mr.
Oh,
Catalano.
do we already have a motion? Do we have a motion on?
Not yet, no.
Nope.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to do the third reading of the Millis Public School policy for face coverings, policy 5.11.7.
Second.
Second.
We have a moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I will do the third reading. Millis Public Schools policy number 5.11.7, policy for face coverings. In accordance with guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, DPH, and the Millis Board of Health, the following requirements are in place until further notice. A face mask or covering that covers the nose and mouth must be worn by all individuals in school buildings, on school grounds, during school hours, and on school transportation. Individuals may be excluded from the requirement per CDC guidance and applicable law if the individual is having trouble breathing, is unconscious, is incapacitated, is unable to remove the mask or face covering without assistance. In addition, mask or face coverings will not be required for anyone who has a medical, behavioral, disability, or other challenge making it unsafe or not possible to wear a mask or face covering. A written note from a physician or medical therapeutic specialist specific for rationale is required for a requested exemption. Requests will be reviewed by the school nurse to determine if an exemption will be granted. Parents and guardians may not excuse their child from the face covering requirement by signing a waiver. Face or face coverings will not be required during mask breaks, while eating or drinking, during outdoor band, chorus, physical education, as long as 10 feet of distancing is ensured. Staff who are alone in a room. Social distancing will be observed during all these times. Student mask or face coverings will be provided by the student's family guardian. The district will supply a disposable face mask or face covering should an individual arrive at a building or board school transportation without one. The district will have face mask available for all staff and for students whose masks become unusable. Guidance on acceptable mask/face coverings. The following types of mask/face coverings are acceptable to wear at school, on school grounds, and on school transportation. Blue disposable surgical mask to be replaced daily, not to be washed or reused. Fabric mask, preferably with at least 2 layers of fabric, face shields, along with a surgical or fabric mask. The following types of masks/face coverings are not acceptable to wear at school, on school grounds, and on school transportation. Mask with vents, neck gaiters, plastic face shields alone without a fabric or surgical mask. If students are in violation of this policy, the building principal will consult with the parents/guardians, and the student will be isolated and may be removed from the school building for in-person learning until such time they can comply with the requirement or the requirement is lifted. Violations of this policy by staff will be handled in the same manner as other violations of school committee policy or expectation. This policy will remain in place until modified or rescinded, or no, this policy will remain in place until modified or suspended by the school committee.
Sorry.
Legal references: Commonwealth of Massachusetts COVID-19 Order 31, Centers for Disease Control considerations for wearing masks, Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education reopening guidelines, Commonwealth of Massachusetts Mask Up Mass. Source: Mask, August 2, Mass Association of School Committees, August 2020. First reading waived 9/8/20, second reading 9/8/20, third reading 9/22/20. That is it.
Madam Chair?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Mr. Conroy.
I think we just, and it was just added late at the end. I think in the second to last paragraph, we wanted to add building principal or designee. So it'd just be adding the word or designee.
Dave, you have to do it all over again now.
No, we don't.
I know.
No, we don't. I think we're all in agreement. And also the edit, the word suspended, there was still rescinded
Yep.
on the draft. I read it as suspended.
Okay.
So should we do that? Should we take the vote and then add that mark
Yes.
in the discussion? That's what we should do.
Yes.
Yep.
I'll take a motion to adopt the policy.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
I make a motion to adopt policy 5.11.7 as read with the one edit.
Second.
Second.
We've moved in second. Any further discussion?
For clarification, the edit was principal and then we added and designee. That was the edit.
We also have to do the suspended. So the designee is
Oh.
now in there. So I see designee now. So the building principal or designee is in there, but rescinded is still showing. I keep coming in and out of it to see if it updates. So
No, it
so-
Right,
says
but
suspended. It says suspended on mine.
That's so weird. Okay.
If
The
you're,
one that I opened, it didn't show up, but it's fine. I read it
Now
as
it does.
suspended, so.
Now it's there.
It's
Okay, I
nice.
got it now. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All
So
right.
it's as is.
Yes.
Thank you. We had a move in second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So I'm going to go back up and I apologize. I didn't see our student rep here. So Ben is with us. Ben, do you have an update?
Yes, I do. Sorry about that. The only two things we have are for any sports coming up. If they are required baseline tests and concussion videos as well as physicals, make sure to get those in for whenever they start. And clubs have started. So for in-class days, there's a club period. You can join. Each Zoom is kind of getting figured out. They're figuring out times, but if you would like, you can go to any club that you want.
Great. Thanks, Ben. Okay. Nancy, do we want to go down and do the correspondence? I think we can get that done.
yeah, thank you. We had a couple of great articles in the Millis Midway News. Well, one great one on Mr. Grant, our athletic director and dean of students at the high school. So that was a lovely article. And then I wanted to draw attention to the fact that there was also an article on some dual enrollment classes that are being offered at Dean, I think it was Dean or no, Mass Bay Junior College, Community College. And so one of the things that's possible that we want students and parents to be aware of is the ability to take some community college classes, usually in your senior year, but not necessarily. So that was the other article. Under correspondence also, we also received a lovely note from Miss Joanne Hadley, who lives in Norton, but is the aunt of a student who graduated in 2020, thanking us. And I won't read it all, but it's she's a retired educator and the aunt of a 2020 graduate. She said, "I'm particularly thankful for what you and your staff did to normalize the final months of the 2020 year for the seniors graduating and give them a wonderful send-off. Many memories were made, and it was heartwarming to see their smiling faces at the end of the year in person on the stage on the football field." So we appreciate that very much, and kudos to Mr. Merlaney, Mr. Engler, and everybody who made that, and Shannon Graham, who made Graduation Outdoors possible.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go to Mr. Conroy. He's going to give us an update on our superintendent search. And I just wanted to thank you, Mark, for you, and not just you, but the entire superintendent search committee. I know you guys have put a lot of time into this. We really appreciate all of your work. So I'll turn it over to you for an update.
Sure. Thanks. And yes, the search committee was a great group to work with, and I'm happy. What I'm going to do is actually read the report that the search committee submitted to the full school committee. So I'll read the report and recommendations, and I'll just start by saying that the results of the report were a complete unanimous consensus of the process and the results. So I'll just read the memo for the public and as well. So at the direction of the Millis School Committee, the Superintendent Search Committee was organized to solicit applications for the position of Superintendent of Schools and to conduct the initial screening and interviews of candidates. The committee recommends 3 individuals to proceed to the public process involving the school committee. As a background, the school committee retained the services of the Mass Association of School Committees to facilitate the superintendent search. Under the direction of the chair, the Mass Association of School Committees prepared a brochure, distributed the notice of vacancy to over 1,300 individuals and organizations, posted and shared postings on the Mass Association of School Committee and Mass Association of School Superintendents listservs, and received and reviewed applicants from 38 completed candidates, and served as a consultant to the search committee members. The Millis Superintendent Search Committee was comprised of the following, to whom, as Carrie mentioned, we are extremely thankful. So in addition to myself, it was Mark Caulfield, who is a high school teacher here, John Lohr, who was our community member and parent representative, Elise Malloy, who's on the call administrator, as well as Jennifer Starr, our technology director. So it was a 5-person search committee representing all aspects of the Millis community. The search committee completed an orientation on its roles and responsibilities, and following the deadline for applications, reviewed all 38 applicants, selected candidates for interviews, developed questions for candidates, and conducted 9 interviews. Because several candidates had indicated confidentiality was a prerequisite for their participation, application review and initial review interviews were conducted in executive session. Because of the COVID emergencies, the search committee meetings and interviews were conducted via a Zoom platform. Following the interviews, the search committee has recommended the following individuals as candidates for the school committee to interview. The application packages for each candidate will be shared with the school committee after this meeting. The resumes will be public documents, but all other materials will remain confidential. And all other candidates who were not finalists, their materials will be archived in a confidential manner by the Millis Public Schools. So the 3 candidates being moved forward in alphabetical order are Maureen McCallion Cohen, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Minden Upton Regional School District, Scott Holcomb, who is the Superintendent of the North Attleboro Public Schools, and Bob Mullaney, who is a principal here at Millis High School. So I just want to briefly read the brief bios that are in this letter as well. So for Maureen Cohen, Dr. Cohen has spent over 20 years in education as a teacher, building administrator, and district leader, and has worked in urban and suburban settings. In 2012, she was named Mass Assistant Principal of the Year. She has been a frequent presenter at educational conferences and has provided professional development in many other districts. She has focused, among other topics, on transformational leadership. Dr. Cohen has served as an elected member of the Grafton School Committee. She is a graduate of Bowdoin College and obtained her graduate degrees at Northeastern. Scott Holcomb has served as high school principal, assistant superintendent, and superintendent of the North Attleboro Public Schools. He's completing his 4th year as superintendent. In addition, he spent 11 years as a teacher and 3 as an administrator in Bellingham, Hopkinton, and Seekonk. Throughout his career, he has been successful in securing grant funding, moving his district into level 1 status, and expanding access to advanced placement coursework for students. He earned his bachelor's and master's from Bridgewater State University, a certificate of advanced graduate study from Boston College, and is working on his doctorate from the University of New England. Mr. Mullaney is entering his 14th year as high school principal. Prior to 2007, he spent 20 years as a teacher and 3 years as an assistant principal in Hingham. As a principal, he has worked to expand advanced placement opportunities, focused on social and emotional learning, and created a culture of high expectations and student achievement. He has also built an expanding network of professional and community colleagues, including the Norfolk County District Attorney's Community Roundtable. He has also served on 7 accreditation teams for NEASC. An Assumption College graduate, Mr. Mullaney holds 2 master's degrees, which were awarded by UMass Boston in secondary education and Endicott in organizational management. As for next steps, our next steps will be coordinating what have historically been site visits, where the school committee would go to the individual districts. However, we're going to do those virtually, where we will interview members of the school community where the candidates are currently employed. We will also then in turn have the candidates do site visits to Millis, which again will be, in terms of community participation, will end up being virtual. And the plan will be, we would announce the virtual site visits for candidates to come to Millis and allow the community members who wanted to submit questions in advance so that they can be addressed by the candidate within the time frame that we will set aside for each candidate. They will probably not all be on one night. We may do a couple of different nights, but we're now working with the candidates on scheduling those. So, and then lastly, there will be formal interviews in a public meeting where we, the school committee, will host our interviews of each of the candidates, and then we will deliberate and make a selection. So while originally we were thinking we might be done by October 1st, we may extend about a week or so, just as everybody's schedule has been otherwise occupied, and not that this hasn't been given priority by all involved, but there's a lot of big priorities going on at the same time. So again, I guess outside of the report, I'll just say for myself, the pool of candidates that we had, all 38, we had an extremely impressive pool, and it was not always easy choices, but there was a consensus among among the search committee about it. And I guess I will, with Jen and you know, and Elise on the call, if they wanted to add anything, they can, and if not, that's okay. Just about the process.
Totally put you on the spot.
Yeah, but that's okay. They don't mind. But no, so that is our report.
Thank you, Mark. Jen or Elise, did you want to add anything, or do you want me to just thumbs up, or all good?
I think it was a great process, and I appreciated the chance to be part of the committee. As Mark mentioned, the candidate pool was very vast and very experienced, and it was I think we have some really nice candidates, really positive candidates to move forward. So thank you for the opportunity for being on the committee. I really appreciated it, and I hope I served Millis in a good capacity.
Thank you. Jen?
I would second what Mark and Elise both said. It was a good process. We had a tremendous pool, and as Mark mentioned, consensus around the candidates moving forward.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we're up to our school reopening update. So a few things before we get started. For the public or anyone watching on YouTube, an email address was given out on listserv for questions. I'm going to read it again just so you know. So if you have any questions about the superintendent search or about the school reopening plan, please send us an email. What we're going to do is compile all of the emails together, because we tend to get a lot of the same questions. And I think, last time we kept asking, we seem to get a lot of repeats. So we're going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to compile all the questions with answers and post them on our website and send out a listserv when they're done, so the public knows that all of the questions are done. This way, if you are asking a question, you can see that it's been answered. We don't miss anybody, and we're not, if we're not limited by time, and we can get you the correct answers. We hope through our update that you'll get the answers to your questions, but again, if there's still questions, please by all means shoot us an email, and that email is S as in Sam, C as in Charlie, 922@millisschools.org. That's also been on the listserv, so please send an email. We hope to get them all compiled and posted by the end of the week. Again, we will send out a listserv to let you know that they're there. We just thought that this would be a more efficient way to get all the public's questions answered. And then one more thing before we get started, I did want to just address the letters sent out by DESE to some of the school districts around. Millis did not receive a letter. We can only assume that this is because DESE approves of our approach and timeline. That we have been very definite in our plans to move our district to hybrid as quickly as possible in October. We don't have an open sort of timeline around moving to hybrid. We've always had a very definite plan, so we can only assume that is why. So I just wanted to address that because I know there were some questions around DESE sending out these letters. So that being said, what we're going to do, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy and her team to give us an update on how school's been going the past week or two, how remote learning's been going. And then another thing we've been asked a lot is, well, what are we waiting for? What are we working on? And I can assure you there's a lot of work going on in the background from the admin team, the teachers, the school committee, and everyone involved. So I'm actually going to screen share one of our working lists, and we'll kind of go through, and you can see all of the things that the admin teams have been doing, and then us as a school committee can ask any further questions or give any definites on, hey, we need to still work on this, or we have a couple extra questions, and then we'll continue on the list. So we want to be a little more transparent with what exactly we're working on to hopefully answer some of those questions from parents out there. So that being said, Nancy, I am going to turn it over to you and your team. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Thank you. First of all, I can't say enough about what teachers and staff have done to make remote learning and our opening of school really wonderful and positive. We do have some students in the building, the students who are at highest risk and need the in-person experience, and some preschoolers who are our youngest learners and for whom remote learning is not really possible. So it's been really great to see kids in the building. Everybody is so excited to have them in, and the teachers have been doing a remarkable job. I've been really amazed, and the principals are reporting what a fabulous job, and they'll give you some specifics, but I was in some classrooms today and tweeted about it because remote learning is not easy. Hybrid learning is not going to be easy either, but they are doing really a tremendous job, and it takes a lot of work. And you may know I'm married to a tech integration specialist who teaches teachers how to do these things. And so we talk about it a lot at home, and I see the amount of work that goes into making this happen. And it's a tremendous testament to the staff as to how well it's going. Also, that can't happen without the tremendous administrative team you have. Most people here this evening, along with Dr. Marks, and then Joan Lynn, our curriculum director, will be joining us, because they are the hardest working people I know. They also support and believe in their teachers and make it work for them. They're incredibly responsive. As a team, this team is the most responsive administrative team, I think, anywhere in the state, if not a broader area, because when something happens and we hear from a family that something's not going well, we address it immediately, and teachers are incredibly responsive. So I really appreciate what's been happening, and know that it's not easy, and I know people are tired, but they are dedicated to making it work for our students. I do have just a quick update from the health services providers, who are also doing just a tremendous amount of work, and families are getting a lot of communication from us in the past week or two. A tremendous amount of information is going out. The newsletters, we will continue to add to those and keep it posted under Millis Updates on our website. So it's right in the middle of the page. You click on Millis Updates, and we'll make sure that those stay current. The health office has asked, they've done a tremendous job, Diane Dennehy and Lynn Molinari and Suzanne Lordy. They've done a lot of work, our PPE and health and safety protocols, hand washing, first aid kits, everything, and very frequent, daily, sometimes contact with our Millis Board of Health. And the Millis Board of Health has been tremendous as well. We have protocols developed and communications developed for communicating if a student does become ill, and the contact tracing, et cetera. The collaboration around, we had a flu clinic for staff, which was wonderful. Screenings that are happening, this symptom checklist, the daily screening checklist that families need to do every morning and staff needs to do every morning. The training that they've provided for staff, some for school committee, and they are in the process of making sure those trainings are in a form for families as well, that are easy to digest, and the information that families need. And then the isolation spaces, the tracking I mentioned, and also simultaneously working on how to ensure that students with allergies, when they come back in the building, will also be safe and have great experiences. In terms of, very briefly, in terms of our hiring, we've hired 13 people so far, and principals and staff have done a tremendous job hiring. We still have some positions to go because we've added through the grant some learning facilitator positions. So we've hired all our teachers. We have long-term subs in place, and at the next school committee meeting, we'll go over the personnel. We usually create the blue sheets with information about all the teachers and that we're hiring. And so the positions we still have to hire are some learning facilitators at each building, one more paraprofessional, and a tiers tutor at Clyde Brown and a tiers tutor at the middle school. So we're in pretty good shape. We have a couple more weeks before, or what is it, 4 weeks before hybrid starts up. So we are confident that we will have those positions filled by that time, or we're very hopeful, if not quite confident. But so if anybody knows of other people looking for work, please check our website. Everything's posted, or just give us a call at central office. Thank you. And then I'm going to turn it over first to Jen Starr, our technology director.
Thank you, Nancy. I also want to reiterate what Nancy was saying. Everything that's happened has been as a result of everybody working together. If ever there was a village making something happen, it's Millis. The admin team, the teachers, and the tech team has been outstanding. We've added a tremendous, using that tremendous word, we've added a tremendous amount of devices and support for families outside of our schools, and yet it's the same tech team we've been using for years. So same numbers, but the amount of work that they're doing, and they've risen to the occasion and done an amazing job. We have 100% of students have a school managed device at home assigned to them. Grades pre-K through 1 have iPads. They have them at home. They're logged into all of their apps. Their teachers are doing unprecedented teaching with these early grades, reaching their students. Grades 2 through 6 are one-to-one with Chromebooks. Grades 7 and 8 remain with their iPads, and grades 9 through 12 are on their Chromebooks. And we're working with a number of families who have connectivity issues, whether it's no internet access or limited access. So making sure that all families are able to access education. We've also provided a bunch of PD around the learning platforms that are used at the different grade levels. We're working with Seesaw, It's Learning, Google Classroom, and Google Sites. We've provided Zoom licenses for all staff, including paid versions for teachers. They're able to host and co-host classes. We've navigated so many things around the idea of how we get subs and co-teachers and paras and all of these different teachers able to do their jobs, working in breakout rooms. And it's how much has happened in the last few weeks is mind-blowing, really. We've done some PD around various screencasting tools. We have upped our ante as far as what we provide for teachers with that. Many staff have opted to also adopt an iPad as one of their teaching tools for screencasting and as a second device. Some teachers are working with as many as 2 or 3 screens as they're teaching their classes. We've provided document cameras for staff, which has also been very invaluable as far as screencasting, demonstrating a process, experiments, all kinds of things that have come in handy for the document cameras. And we're setting up a single sign-on with Google wherever possible to try to simplify the workflow and the login process, especially for the younger kids. When we came back to school, we had those series of days of PD. 2 of those days were dedicated to technology professional development. I'd say we probably put in more PD. It was like doing it with a shoehorn. We put a lot of stuff into 2 days. The teachers rose to the occasion, enthusiastic, grabbing the tools that they thought that they could learn and use, having some time in the afternoons to be able to practice those tools. We had a lot of time to consult with teachers, and teams just exhibited what they always do really well. They collaborated and got together and helped each other and really started using these tools so well. Some Google Suite PD as well. And then the Millis Digital and Remote Learning site. All of the PD and all of the resources and tools, families can access this site as well. There are tutorials for using the different tools, including Zoom, Google Classroom, all different tools that we have introduced and provided PD on. And we are currently, especially with the help of Pat Grancelli, another name I need to throw out, she's our tech integration specialist at Clyde Brown, and has also been so instrumental in helping to support teachers at Clyde Brown around getting remote learning going with the younger kids. She's also helping to develop a family learning center on the Millis Digital and Remote Learning site. And that family learning center will have tutorials and lots of different resources for helping families help their students at home with all the different tools that we've introduced. I think I'm handing it off now to Elise.
Thank you so much, Jen. So I'm Elise Malloy. I'm the assistant principal and school counselor at Clyde Brown, and I'm also here representing the social emotional learning team from the district, our subcommittee that worked over the summer to prepare social emotional learning training for our staff. It was a great summer working and developing SEL strategies and plans for our staff. We are excited to welcome them back during our professional development days. We dedicated a full day to SEL training for staff, and our Millis teachers received instruction on how to support students with social emotional concerns, and were provided with training and resources using the VAR, which is called Validate, Appreciate, and Refer process. This process is used to help identify students in need, provide language and supports, and give information on how to refer to additional services if needed. The staff also received a multitude of resources and supports to assist students and families on all 3 levels of intervention. Tier 1, which is whole school or whole class supports, as well as Tier 2 and Tier 3 for small group or individual student needs. We also talked about staff self-care during this SEL training, which is also an important part to continue to foster. Staff were also provided with resources and information on diversity and inclusion, and enhanced and more in-depth training on these 2 areas, or these areas will be continued to be provided throughout the year. So we're going to continue to provide more in-depth training on diversity and inclusion. Our feedback from the staff on the SEL training was really positive, which was great to hear. And we're going to continue to support our staff and students. We recognize within the SEL team that this is a very challenging time for students and families. And the district SEL team, in support of that, has created a social emotional learning caregiver resource website. It's a big mouthful. It's a SEL caregiver website. And in that website, there are many resources for families. There are strategies, resources, articles, and tips. This website information was shared to the Millis community through the Welcome Back newsletter that was sent out by Ms. Gustafson a few weeks ago. It will also be updated into our Millis updates page and linked to that page. And it will also be sent out through school listservs and newsletters this week or next week. So be on the lookout for that SEL caregiver resource. I have to do a huge shout out to April Lehman. She was instrumental in really getting these websites up and running. She took that training, the professional technology training that Jen Starr was just talking about, and really jumped on it. So our SEL team was able to provide resources, and she really fostered to put that together. So thank you so much, April. Our counseling team, we really want families to know that we are here to support you. We're here to support you and your students and your children. So please, please reach out to the members of the counseling teams at your school. I'm just going to share who they are so that way you can reach out to them. At Clyde Brown, it's Kelly Annunziato is the school counselor, as well as myself, Elise Malloy. At Millis Middle School, April Lehman and Olivia Zatoli. And at Millis High School, Erin Sullivan, Olivia Zatoli, who also works at the high school and middle school, Mark Adecki, and Lauren Puffer, who is the current long-term sub for Riley Dunn. So please feel free to reach out to any of us at any time if we can support your children or your family We can talk about how to support remote learning at home and anything else that you might need. So please check out the SEL Caregiver website and reach out to us if we can help out in any way. And now I'm going to turn this over to Tana Django, the new principal at Clyde Brown, who is fantastic, by the way, and doing an amazing job.
Thank you, Elise. I cannot express words can't express my appreciation for the staff at CFB. They have gone so far above anything that I had ever imagined. I felt like I had set pretty high expectations, and they have blown those expectations right out of the sky. It has been absolutely amazing. I did want to give you just a few little updates for Clyde F. Brown for the beginning of the year. It was a great start to the year. This year, like no other, we've been presented with many unique challenges and unexpected things happening. Our staff, students, and families have risen to each and every challenge and done exceedingly well. We have had an overwhelmingly positive start to the 2021 school year. We set the stage with our professional development at the beginning, where teachers were learning the new technology and platforms for instruction. Our 2 days of orientation and device distribution was a great success. Approximately 545 devices were given to students and families. Like Jen Starr said, all students in pre-K to grade 1 received iPads, and grades 2 through 5 received Chromebooks. This was achieved through the tireless efforts of our technology team, and I just want to publicly thank them for their endless hours of work to make this happen for our youngest students. It was wonderful. During the distribution process, staff and families followed a well-designed schedule, with each class having an assigned pickup time. Teachers not involved in the distribution were meeting in small groups of families through Zoom to introduce themselves, answer questions, and begin getting to know their students and the families and one another. This was another important factor in our success to the start of the year. The first weeks of remote learning has by and large gone extremely well. We have had a few technological glitches that teachers, students, and families have problem solved together. When devices have malfunctioned, we've been able to provide new devices within the same day in most cases. The partnership between our school and our families has been demonstrated on a daily basis. And when I say school, it has been our office staff, our teachers, our nurses. Everyone has just really come together, and everyone has been a wonderful support for our students and families. And I have received numerous emails from families expressing their appreciation to the classroom teachers for going above and beyond to set students up for success. And I'd just like to share a few of those comments with you. One family wrote and said, "I have to say, I was very reluctant to see how virtual kindergarten would go. Today suppressed my expectations. I can see all the hard work you put into helping them set off successfully." Another family wrote, "We just wanted to say how impressed we are, and that it is so obviously clear how hard both teachers and your team have worked to get this remote start planned and executed. Our children have both done well and have been able to navigate their days almost entirely independently. While we fully expect there to be glitches and bumps in the road along the way, we can't be happier with the first days of school." And one last one, family wrote, "Our son is about to begin his first grade year, and we are just so thankful for all you and countless others for providing materials, an iPad, helpful videos and links, clear emails, and so much more." It has been overwhelmingly positive. There have been challenges, as some of the parents mentioned, and as I stated as well, but it has just been overwhelmingly positive. One other thing that we will be doing later this week is a substitute teacher training. I have our subs coming into the building to do a 3-hour training to make sure that they're equipped with what they need to be able to step right into the teacher's place when we have absences. over the next year. So that's it for CFP. It's been a great start, and I feel honored and privileged to be part of such a wonderful team here in Millis. Thank you, and I will pass it off to Mrs. Knowlton, the middle school principal.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So our teachers started off, as Jen Starr mentioned, with 2 fabulous weeks of professional development, but all I kept hearing was, we just need to start. We just want to see the students. We can't wait to see their faces. And I think that our first couple of days exceeded everyone's expectations. They went, pretty smoothly. A parent asked me the first day how I thought it went, and I said, I think it was a 9 out of 10. And she said, oh no, it's a 10 out of 10 in my house. So that was really good to hear. We were very excited on Monday to deploy devices. We handed out 105 Chromebooks to 6th graders, 77 iPads to 7th grade, and 94 iPads to 8th grade. And that's the incredible work of the technology department in getting everything ready and helping us get those out to parents and families. What was amazing was that first day, I think we only had 5 supply bags left. So everyone really showed up, and we're grateful for families for their support. We handed out sling bags at the middle school that had an agenda book, a dry erase board, some earbuds, some markers, other miscellaneous supplies to try and give everyone some equity at home in terms of what they had to use for remote learning. The orientation on Tuesday was very well attended, and students were really ready to jump in on Wednesday when we started. By about 8:15, 8:30 on Wednesday, we had 95% attendance of kids able to log in. They were in the right classes. They were where they needed to be. So that was fabulous. And Thursday and Friday, same thing. We had 99% attendance. So again, we're grateful for families who are helping their kids get up in the morning and get on their classes. But I really think it's a tribute to the teachers and their organization and their ability to communicate and get their students on in a routine and on a schedule that works. We've had pretty good feedback, as I said. I want to echo what Tana said about we've had a few glitches with technology, and we've been able to turn around those devices within about a half an hour if someone has to bring a device back to get checked out or swapped out for something else. The tech team has been amazing. I just can't thank our teachers, our paraprofessionals, again, the families for working together with us, because it definitely does take a village, and we have a great one. So that's about it in terms of middle school update. I'm going to turn it over to Bob Mullaney for the high school.
Thanks, Maureen. I'd like to echo what Tana and Maureen said about the start of the year. It's really been excellent. We started handing out supplies the week of September 9th. And by that Friday, September 11th, the Friday before we were to start with orientation, we had 95% of the bags for kids handed out. So 95% of the kids had everything they needed before orientation. I have to, again, shout out to the paras who organized getting all those bags ready and getting them into kids' hands, and working with the teachers during that week while the teachers were involved in some of the professional development. It was really a great team effort. So then we had orientation on Monday and Tuesday, the 14th and 15th. And that gave us a real good opportunity to test out our systems. Orientation was not necessarily mandatory. It wasn't a time for taking attendance or anything like that, but we had 94% of the students made it to orientation and kind of went through their schedule over the course of 2 days, which gave us a chance to pressure test the links we're using and accessing the classes and so forth. So that was very helpful for us. So on Wednesday, we hit the ground running as well. Any first day of school in a high school, you have questions about schedules and kids going to the wrong room, and we had that in a virtual way. We had kids clicking on the wrong link and being in the wrong class. So, but those things got straightened out pretty quickly. And Thursday, we had very few issues with kids not being able to access classes. On Friday, we had our first kind of technical issue. Thank goodness it didn't happen on Wednesday, but on Friday we were having some network issues in the building. And in a testament to the way that the staff had worked with kids and worked out protocols, teachers were able to contact kids through emails, through Remind, through other methods, to let the kids know we were having some issues, and the kids knew what to do, and we dealt with it. And by probably 9 o'clock, 9:30, everything was back up and running. Today, the first Monday of their school year, everyone was able to get in and access everything. So we're really off to a good start. Over the first 4 days of classes, we've had 98% attendance rate, which is outstanding. So the kids are showing up to class. I'm hearing great things as well. We have kids coming in to pick up different things for different classes, or to exchange a Chromebook if there are issues. And again, I'd like to echo what everyone else is saying about the tech department and their responsiveness to Chromebooks that are acting kind of wonky, or passwords that have been canceled for some reason. They've been so responsive. But every time I've seen a kid live and in person, I ask, how's it going? And to a student, they've said, it's going really well. So I'm very thankful of all the efforts of everyone to get us off to this good start. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Nancy, you're on mute.
Sorry. I think we have a quick update maybe from Joan and then Chuck. And Terry and John.
Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I was late in joining tonight. I think Jen was already speaking about professional development and things that had happened earlier on our first 8 days. But as far as curriculum, I just heard what Bob was saying about things going well. I believe everything, the feedback that I've gotten to from the teachers is that we've made some transitions with some things that may have been hard copies, and how we were transitioning them to be more remote so that the teachers could still use the same materials to support the curriculum by way of their videos that they've made, or by ways of the online subscriptions that we've bought in the past that are been, pretty almost they can't just survive without them kind of mode with I'm thinking of the younger children with their math books, as well as the online subscriptions for everyday math and all of those things that they're able to do. We've made some adjustments and some purchases for our ELL students so that they can also be accessing the materials in appropriate time, as well as some of the languages that we need. We've had some additional students arrive, several families actually that are contributing to our diversity for our ELL department. We have a couple of students who are speaking Arabic, and we have 3 or 4 different families that have come, combination of Portuguese as well as Spanish. So some of our curriculum materials we're adapting to make sure that they can access what they need when they need it. So all in all, I think our teachers have done a phenomenal job with creating the lessons and making sure that they have the things that are needed. And I think if nothing else, the collegiality amongst our staff and who can help each other to sort of get to those points has been pretty remarkable. So kudos to the staff, as well as to the, I would echo the sentiments of the tech department. They've been remarkably responsive in helping us get everything that we need, from the PD for our staff at the beginning of the year to supporting them as they're now trying out those new things for the first time. So kudos, Jen, to you and your guys. It's been wonderful.
Terry, John?
Well, I think from my standpoint, I'll talk a little bit about transportation briefly and food service, and then I'll yield to John on facilities. But we're actually transporting some students. We go as far away as Falmouth, and then of course we transport locally for some students that we need to get to school every day. Some of those students that we talk about that are at risk. We have the transportation plan, which maybe we'll talk about later. But everything seems to be going well. Our drivers have all been trained by the nurses and by our transportation coordinator. So they have a good understanding of what transportation is like under COVID-19 rules. And they understand the importance of making sure that they keep the buses and vans cleaned. As far as food service, we have a waiver, I think everybody knows, through December now. But I did look at the free and reduced statistics this morning with my staff, and when that waiver goes away, our free and reduced numbers have more than doubled. So that is an after effect of COVID-19 that we need to be prepared for. We did set up the middle high school cafeteria with desks, and it's encouraging that we may be able to do some service there. We're still kind of talking about it, and Maureen and Bob and I and Sean, the four of us, haven't kind of gotten together to talk it through, but there is some optimism that we may be able to do something with the cafeteria. And so there's still some planning that needs to go on, because what we also want to do is see if maybe there's a way that we can keep the cohorts together in that plan. And I think other than that, I think that really kind of sums up, my part. Maybe I'll let John talk more about the facilities. Oh, I should say one other thing. This Friday is the drop dead delivery date for the air purifiers. I will say that before I yield to John.
On the facility aspect of things, believe everything went very well. Buildings seem to be working in a great state. We have been focusing pretty much still on getting ready for a hybrid mode and finding storage for furniture, and we're finalizing things on that and doing some final painting projects, some more markings, again, more focusing on a hybrid mode. So, but besides that, nothing's really changed. The facility seems to be running well.
And Mr. Grant, athletics.
Hi, everybody. Needless to say, we are very excited to get going with athletics. Our coaches have been trained in the screening process. They've been equipped with an app, and we are ready to make for a very efficient process in keeping our kids safe as they arrive at practice and before we begin practice. We'll have a travel itinerary for our opponents who come to visit our campus for games, giving them explicit instructions as to where they'll park, where they will unload, where they will enter our facility. We have staffing prepared to go. We've met with Mr. Engler. We'll have the chairs set up socially distanced on the benches with the right number, stretching from midfield down to possibly the end zone, depending on how many chairs we need, which looks like will be between 10 and 11. So you're looking at about 60 to 66 feet of spreading out the chairs. It's just, this is school. We're about ready to start. Athletics and extracurricular are a big part of the culture. And right now a missing piece, even though we're not in school, we're still getting that feeling of the kids learning and parents calling in and the feedback, which is great reassurance to us that people are recognizing that learning is a priority again here, and that it's time to focus back on school. And I think with the return of sports, it'll just complete that picture as we look forward to coming back into the building in hybrid in late October. My thanks to everybody, the administration, the patience of everyone that is waited. I know that sometimes it's frustrating, and to the general public, of some of the decisions that you're waiting that seem to be so simple, but we have to understand that we are working in terms of athletics with 12 different communities, 12 different cultures with varying priorities. And it becomes very difficult to try to meet and compromise and come to mid-ground as to what is safe for 12 communities. We have done that. We are ready to go. And as long as we abide by the guidelines, we'll be fine as can be. Thank you.
Thank you all. This team is remarkable, and it's just such an honor to work with you all. They have been tremendous. I do have also an update on enrollment, just an overview. You have a memo in your packet. We have enrolled 1,183 students, which is down about 30 students, but 20 of those 30 are in the preschool area. We went from 62 students in preschool and now are only able to accommodate 42 students. So preliminary indications, there's always a lot of change between September and October enrollment. A lot of things shift and get finalized. So, but preliminarily, it looks like about 6 of our students enrolled in a vocational school, and between 6 and 8 are attending private school. The other large change I want to make you aware of is that in kindergarten, usually, for example, last year we had 6 students in a half-day program. This year, because it is entirely remote, we have 36 families that have opted for a half-day program for this year. This obviously has an impact on the budget, and but I was in kindergarten today and was amazed at what they're doing remotely. It was great to see. One teacher volunteered to teach the 2 half-day sections, but we're at a point where class sizes are currently 18 in the half day and about 15 or 16 in the full day sessions. So if we have more movement, we'll need to discuss what to do about that. Internally, we've obviously been planning for that, and there are a couple possibilities, but I wanted to alert the committee to that. And I have to say that Ms. Django and Ms. Malloy are on top of it very much so. So when, we'll bring it to the committee if we need to recommend any changes there.
Nancy, can I just interject? I have a kindergartner this year, and I can't say enough how amazing her teachers are right now in engaging her remotely. I was a bit skeptical, but it's going really well in the Briggs household with 3rd grade and a kindergarten, and just being able to navigate the iPad and getting into the meetings, just like, Mom, I've got a meeting. I can't chat right now, or something. Like, it's great. Like, they're figuring it out, and the activities are wonderful.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your updates, and thank you everyone. Just like Robin said, I have a young 3rd grader at home, and it is very apparent of all the hard work that you all have been doing. So thank you for everything. We really appreciate it. So we are going to go to the list to go through. I'm going to attempt to, I'm not a Zoom person, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. Let's see. Here we go. Can you all see this?
Yep.
All right.
Carrie, yep.
Perfect. So I just want to start off by letting the public know that this is a subset of the overall list that we're working on. We've tried to limit it for tonight on things that are based on policies, and thought we could go through them. And we'll update it, and we'll, if we need to sign off on it, or if there's some things to further address, we'll kind of talk about it. So, there's a few here. We'll just go through them. First is a guidance. Item is health and safety guidance, family facts and mask guidance. So I guess the question is, do we need a mask guidance and a mask policy, or just a policy? And we have the 2 documents here. So I know there's 2 different, there's a mask guidance and a mask policy. So do we feel we need both?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Gibbons.
So I think there's also oh wait, maybe not. I thought there was mask protocol somewhere too. Yeah, so I should have put number. Sorry, I should have put 10. So there's protocol, policy, and guidelines. So I'm just, is there, I think from previous meetings, there was mention of having a policy. So having a policy, which we just adopted, and then also having something else. I guess I'm just trying to get us to what's the something else, and are there 3 things that we need, or some lower number than 3, or all 3? Because right now we have 3. We have this guidance link, we have the policy, and we have the protocol.
I think at the 9/8 meeting, we talked about looking at the protocols and kind of the guidance and seeing what was carried in the policy and if there was a need to do a separate kind of procedure, right? The policy is good for, indefinite, but that we could update the procedure as we go. So I think what I don't think we did is kind of looked at all 3 documents in total and then see what is repeat.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think the important thing for the administrative team to do now is, now that we have a policy that's been approved, we'll just make sure our protocol or procedures align to that. And in terms of, and disseminate to the public. I think the idea of a protocol and the guidance was more operational, how to help families and staff, but we'll take a look at those and make sure they're all aligned. And if they're duplicative, we can eliminate one of them or 2.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna,
okay.
Mr. Conroy.
Can we just so that we all know that we're communicating and thinking and speaking on the same things, can we just, after that review is done, can we just ask that we just get a look at whatever that secondary document is, just so that we know what's out there?
Of course, yeah.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Gibbons.
So just a question to the entire committee. Are there any other maybe it's premature to ask that question. Okay, so so I'm just trying to think. So I don't know if it's Robin, if that's you in there. Okay. So can we mark any of these things? I think we just did the mask policy. I'm just trying to think if we can. Okay. So we just need to link. Okay, I'm just trying to knock some of these things off the list. So
in there if you want.
So so the policy is finalized. So row 10's done. So we're complete on that. We just have to update the link to the approved policy. So I'm just marking that as. Okay. Okay. I'll hold my questions for a couple minutes.
The admin team has reviewed the policy, right? That's what we incorporated some of their edits, so we can get rid of that.
Okay, sorry, Robin. I keep messing around with it. I'll let you do it.
Add the link. I was looking for the policy and add that in right now if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we mark that complete. Okay. I'm going to go back up to the top. So the first one here is admin team is right now is owning this to look at the other 2 guidelines and to see if we need them. So sorry, this is illness guidelines finalized. These are finalized. Anything else? So there is a illness guidelines document. This is for the committee. Is there anything else we need on this one?
Is this a document we reviewed on that Friday meeting?
It is.
Did we? I don't believe we had any edits to be made, right? I think that.
No.
I don't think there
I
was
believe you
any
are correct.
questions that came out of that meeting.
Okay. So I'm going to mark this complete.
I agree.
Okay.
Madam Chair, sorry. I'm just going to jump up to the first one for 1 second. So can we, and maybe we do it at the end for anything that's not complete yet, but just for visibility into kind of timelines and expectations, can we just figure out when we would need to have kind of like that first, like row 2 completed? I'm just trying to get us to when can we just ask for these things to be completed in support of us having this reassessment of going to hybrid. So row 3 is complete, which is great. That's off the table. Number 1, and again, if we want to defer to the end and say, like, for all the things that are open, when do we want to ask for them to be completed? I just don't want us to lose sight of defining a date, just so that we set expectations with folks.
No, I agree. Why don't we go through it first, and then when we know what's open, then we have a better of how many things we have to go back to, we can set some dates.
I agree.
Okay.
I think that's the way to.
Okay. So I'm going to go down to number 3, metrics for moving between learning models. So this is for health and safety metrics from going to remote to hybrid, and then vice versa if we have to go from hybrid to remote. I will say that there is a subcommittee for the Health and Safety Committee. We are meeting tomorrow. The Health and Safety Committee consists of 2 school committee members, both school nurses, and some faculty representatives. We are, like I said, we are meeting tomorrow, and hopefully we will work through this pretty quickly and get this. My hope is that we all agree tomorrow on what these health and safety metrics are, and we can present it shortly after, either at the next meeting or we could send it out. So this one is still open with a hope that it's going to be done by the end of the week. So I'll go down to the next one, learning plan for students opting to say full remote. When hybrids start. So our room's outfitted with all the necessary technology to support both the asynchronous teaching of partially remote students as well as fully remote students once hybrid learning begins. So Nancy, I guess I'll send that off. I'll defer that to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jen Stark can chime in. We obviously have purchased a lot of technology, a lot of subscriptions, and Joan mentioned that as well, to support both hybrid and remote learning. Anything that teachers requested, we've tried to provide. And so we feel that basically the devices and equipment, et cetera, are all there, and we do have perhaps some wiggle room in the grant that we could add to that if there are additional requests. Jen, you want to elaborate at all?
I think that covers it well, unless there are more questions around what you've had to say there.
No, I mean, I don't think I have any questions. I think what we'd be looking for is perhaps the next school committee meeting. And I know we haven't scheduled one yet for next week, but I think we probably should, as we move into hybrid, can maybe we have a brief presentation on how hybrid is going to be delivered. Yeah, so can we have just a brief, whether it's a couple PowerPoint slides or just a memo or something that we can say, and especially for the parents and families, like, this is how hybrid's going to work. Whether you're in person in class or you're remoting or you're on the remote side, this is how we envision, and this is how we've planned for hybrid.
Okay, I think that's very building based, and even more so, even grade level based, depending on primary grades versus upper elementary versus middle. High school is a totally different story. I guess I would ask maybe that principals might speak to the kinds of models they've talked about with their staff around how they envision doing that hybrid model.
Yeah, I think
feel
we're just
more in a
looking.
role of, I feel more in a role of supporting whatever model they choose, but I can't speak for all three schools on how that model would look.
I agree, and I understand that not, one model doesn't fit all for teachers and grade levels and that type of thing. So yeah, maybe it is the next school committee meeting if each principal can give an overview of some of the options that the teachers have opted for, or just so we can give an idea of what to expect for the parents out there and the kids, because I know they love to watch school committee meetings on what it's going to look like when they go to hybrid.
What I can definitely speak to is the tools that we've put in place were put there very thoughtfully, with a lot of input from the staff around what worked for them in the spring and what was missing for them in the spring. We did choose very carefully when we went with the paid version of Zoom so that we have all kinds of ability as a domain to create, the environment that we want to have for our video conferencing. The screencasting tools were chosen very specifically so that they can support a hybrid model or a blended learning model, which a lot of our teachers were used to before all this remote and hybrid learning. The only thing I can think of that might support the hybrid learning model that might be missing is additional devices for teachers, because as I mentioned, multiple screens. You have one screen you're using to teach, you have one screen you might be sharing, but you also need to see your students. And the screen gets really smaller and smaller as you're trying to see all of your students in grid view or project all of your students so that you feel like you can see, at times at least feel like you have a whole class together. But we've got the iPads, we've got the laptops, we've got the document cameras, but I'm almost thinking that something along the lines of a Chromebook, whereas the students are using Chromebooks, it makes sense for teachers to be able to maybe have a device like that. And that would be from the technology point of view, a thing I would think about.
Yes, and I know that it was mentioned that even in Clyde Brown that some of the teachers may be able to use their smart boards to see the remote students. So let's really try to get a handle on. We really just want to get a handle on what that looks like, and we have only a few weeks before we move to hybrid. If we need to buy big screens for the rooms, or if we need to purchase additional equipment, we should be doing that now.
That said, there's a severe scarcity out there, so we might decide to order Chromebooks and might not see them till December.
Okay.
So or any other kind of devices. We've had success getting hotspots, luckily, but not locally. They've had to be shipped from somewhere else in the country. So it's everybody wants all the same things.
Got it. Yep. Okay, so
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
I guess kind of it's not necessarily a next week thing per se, or a expectation that we have the answer tonight. I guess I'll just, for myself, what I'd like over the next couple of weeks before we get to the time period where we're planning to take a vote on moving to hybrid. I'd like some specific examples of exactly what every room maybe is going to be different, and the buildings are going to be different, and how specific teachers are doing it. But maybe if we could see examples, and I don't know whether we just need to know examples of what various teachers are doing in the buildings in order to manage the remote aspect during hybrid, and that the tools that they need in order, based on the approach that they're taking, that they have them ready to go, is what I'd be. So maybe it's not everybody all next week. Maybe we phase it in, but we do only have a few weeks.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
one thing that we had talked about, and I think it's on the list, is a walkthrough. Maybe one thing that we could do as we get closer, giving the admin team a little time, is we have a future school committee meeting in a hybrid model where some people are at home on Zoom, some people are in the classroom. It'll give us the opportunity to see how a classroom is set up, how the remote distancing and the social distancing. So run a meeting in a hybrid model where we have a split admin school committee team at home and then some in the classroom. So it'll give us the opportunity to actually get a real feel while still getting an update on the things that Mark was saying and some of the questions that Denise was asking. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, and I know that we had talked about doing a walkthrough potentially on the 10-6 school committee meeting. So yeah, let's go back and at the end talk about when that would be. Okay, so this one's still open. We have a little bit of work to do on that one, but I'm sure that it's already in progress and it's just putting it together. Transportation plan finalized. Terry, I know you've been working on this. Do you want to just give us a brief update on the transportation plan?
Am I unmuted here? Yes.
Yep.
The brief update is there's been some recent changes we made, both in consultation with our nurses and just again reviewing this as we do on certainly on a weekly basis, that you see underlined. I don't think you see the color in your packet.
We do.
Okay. And basically, I think that really kind of sums it up. It is what we are working with right now actively as our plan. So the process of disinfecting and cleaning the buses, we are active with. Again, the training has taken place, both for the face mask and the enhanced PPE in the cases of certain van drivers that might have to be within 6 feet of a student. I think there was a link in the earlier set of questions that shows you the layout on a big bus as to how the students would be arranged in a bus. And I think we've talked about things like, for example, one of our modifications here was we want to try to not only keep the seat behind the bus driver clear, but the seat opposite that seat clear in case, for example, we have a student that has a physical disability, either temporarily or a permanent one, so that they would be able to be assigned that seat. And again, I think the plan kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah. Any questions on the plan for the school committee?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Conroy.
Terry, number 7, the hybrid plan changes. It says right now 7A says should a hybrid plan be implemented, routes will change. All routes will be communicated. So by the time we get to, taking a vote to move forward to hybrid, will those routes be set, or what do you need, or what will be needed in order for the routes to be determined?
Well, we actually have a pretty good idea of what those routes will be. But I think what happens is that while we have a sort of a core of what the groups will be in each of the 2 days, there's some shifting between the cohorts that doesn't necessarily follow the initial division, if you will, that we use to create the baseline. And so we need to make sure that in that last instance, when we're ready to go, that we confirm with the principals that, are these the students that are truly in the Monday, Tuesday cohort? Are these the students that are truly in the Thursday, Friday cohort, so that we've got the right students on the right days? And then again, we have a pretty good method of communicating with parents. And again, it's a relatively small group right now. So that is the one advantage, I guess you would say we have, is that unlike previous years, there has been some reticence of using buses, and then you combine that with the fact there's less children per bus. That's an advantage, quite frankly, we're going to have in implementing these initial routes.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? No? Are we all, school committee, all good with this, the transportation plan? Can we mark this complete?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. I'm good. We're good. Mark that one done. Okay. Building traffic readiness, special markers in building traffic patterns outlined and complete in the building. So I know Denise and I did a walkthrough prior to starting remote, and because we had some kids and we saw that there were temporary markers out there. So I think we're just looking to see when what the plan is to get those permanent markers down.
Madam Chair.
Cannon, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I can't see everybody, so no.
Clyde F. Brown has already begun to put the more permanent markers down in the building, and we've got little paw prints that have been placed in the traffic patterns that will flow, and John has begun to help us get some of the outside markings taken care of.
Perfect.
Madam Chair,
Ms. Gibbons.
is there a date that we could put on here just to say, I know we said we'll come back and we'll talk about the dates, but so for Clyde Brown, for the middle school, for the high school, just can it be done before X? So I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit on the date piece, but this one just seems very easy for us to look at and say, okay, if it's done no later, like if we're supposed to meet on 10/13 and have a discussion about going to hybrid, can it be done no later than some date prior to that? Because we're not looking for it to be done tomorrow or even next week, I would venture to guess, but maybe around the 7th or 8th of October or something like that. If that's
How about prior to our walkthrough?
That's fine.
That
Is
makes
that
sense.
That's fine with me.
I don't want to stretch anyone. Do you all think that by 10/6 that we can get this done so we can see it when we go through the walkthrough?
Maureen?
I can't see if anyone says anything. I only see
Yeah,
like three.
Maureen.
Yes.
Maureen Knowlton.
Maureen, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to share that this week, the operations crew, John's crew, have been painting arrows on the floor and putting markings on the outside on the bus platform more permanently than what you saw. You saw tape, but now there are maroon colored arrows on the floor and circles on the floor where kids are to stand outside bathrooms and things like that. So that permanent marking is happening right now.
Perfect.
And if John
Okay,
wants
so
to get anything.
again, I can't see anyone, so if somebody wants to.
I don't know if John's talking or not.
Okay.
How
about we?
There we go. Now he's off mute. All right. I'm just going to ask. Does like 10/7 work, John, to have all this, to have these things?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll shoot for that date without a doubt.
Thank you, John. Okay, so I'm going to move down to staffing plan. Is this complete based off the public schedules received to date, or is there something else school committee is looking to have documented and published? We have the CFP duties, inclusive of preschool. Do we have need for duties? And so we have all of this. I think this is the staffing plan for the remote learning. Is there anything further that we're looking for on staffing plan?
Madam Chair, can we just scroll down just because I don't have it open? I'm just looking, so, and I think Nancy mentioned it, that we might get the update next week. I'm, as part of the staffing, I'd just like us to know going in what, how many of those kind of additional positions, the learning monitor, what? Learning monitor,
Facilitators, yeah.
yeah,
Learning
facilitator, thank you.
facilitators, yeah.
How many of those we were able to hire, and kind of how many subs, whether it's, you know, both in teaching as well as food service, bus driver, how many we have already, and how many we were ideally looking to have, more just so we know. I think one of our early meetings, we were talking about just understanding kind of where the limit was of what kind of capacity we could handle in terms of absences, et cetera, at any one time. So that's,
So not looking for an answer tonight, Nancy, but can we just, in the next staffing update, whether it's a memo or what other form, on well, just what Mark said, how many positions that we were looking to fill, how many are open, and any potential issues that we may face if we have prolonged or multiple staff absences.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll come back for due dates. Airflow study to be reviewed and addressed. And I know the airflow study was done. I know we don't have the results yet, but Terry, do we have an idea of when that will be delivered to us?
I'm going to have a conversation with him tomorrow, so I'll have a better idea then, but I would say my target date is within 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay. We'll update that. Mask policy finalized, that's been completed. Staff PPE request. So there was a staff PPE request process that was submitted to us. So I'm gonna just open up to the school committee. Any additional information or questions around staff requesting PPE in that process? And again, I can't see all of you, so if you do, just speak up.
None from me.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay. Then I am okay. All right, then we can mark this one complete. Thank you, Nancy, and nurses or whoever did this. School arrival and dismissal protocols. So you did provide us with a few documents. So CFB arrival and dismissal procedures, middle school, high school arrival and dismissal procedures. Is there any questions from the school committee around what was provided?
I don't have any.
I don't have any questions either.
None from me.
Okay. Okay, then let's mark this one completed. We're doing great. Getting them done. Okay, cleaning protocols. Cleaning protocols finalized and published, including staff responsibilities, student responsibilities, and custodial responsibilities. So we were provided a cleaning protocol document. Again, for the school committee, any further questions on that?
None from.
Guys, a sec.
no.
Denise and Robin, are you good? Do you need a minute?
I'm good. Sorry, Madam Chair. I'm good.
So I haven't thoroughly read through everything yet. So we went through a cleaning protocol at my school the other day, and the only thing that they harped on about was not mixing different chemicals. So whatever the spray was that they gave us, they said don't use bleach with it because those two things. So just making sure that some kind of cleaning presentation or whatever for the staff was there so that they know which chemicals should not be mixed together.
That's part of the training.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, part of the training. And in the case of, I guess I'll say the non-cleaning staff maybe is a generic. We would not put them in a situation where they would have that ability.
Okay, great, perfect.
Okay, then I think we can mark this one complete. We will move down to bathroom protocols. Is there any, so that we were provided some bathroom protocols that have been developed. Is there any questions? And basically it's just every other stall or every other sink will be marked off. There's markers down on the floor for social distancing. Is there any other questions from the school committee?
I'm good.
I am good as well.
Chair,
I
Madam
got
Chair,
it.
it's not on the protocol. It just ties into the staffing. So, and maybe more in the middle high school if we're letting kids leave the room on their own, but do we need hall monitors, or how are teachers within classes, would they be, they don't know whether there's anybody in there or not. So if they're letting kids out at the same time, do we need hall monitors? And if so, do we have them?
Mm-hmm. Mr. Grant?
In terms of hall monitoring in the high school hallway, one of the things that I have done, Mark, in the past and will do when we get back into hybrid is I literally put my desk out on the hallway and I can see the entire high school hallway from my vantage point. Not only will I patrol it up and back, but also it will be a presence there all day. I'll check my messages in the morning. All my athletic director calls can come in over my cell phone. So I'll be very much a presence in the hallways, monitoring traffic flow, proper protocol with masks, social distancing, and just be a general presence that hopefully puts a calming, reassuring situation there with Mr. Mulaney patrolling along with me, and teachers, 80 to 90% of which in between periods stand outside their classroom door anyway. I think you'd be very impressed with how the culture and how the flow goes with how the kids police it from the inside out. It'll go fine.
Great.
Madam Chair, I can also say we are looking to, if we can, hire some additional paraprofessional support for bathroom hall monitoring at Clyde Brown. But I know Ms. Django and Ms. Malloy have been talking also about some ways to figure out how to indicate that how many people are in the bathroom. So they're actively trying to come up with creative solutions if we aren't able to find additional personnel.
Okay, so do we want to mark this one completed?
I'd like follow up on that last piece and whether we leave it complete and it's included in part of the staffing component, or we have it as this. I don't really care either way.
I think
the protocols are complete.
Yeah.
The question of staffing, we're not going to change the protocols based on a hall monitor. I get your point, Mark, and I agree with you. I think we should move the hall monitor and any additional staff up to the staffing plan.
I agree.
Perfect.
Yep. Yeah, let's mark this one complete.
Separate staff from protocols whenever possible.
Yep.
I'm adding it into that number 8 above so we don't lose sight of it.
Thanks, Denise.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to move down to mask break protocol. And we were provided by Nancy and the team of the mask break protocol document. I've read it. And any of the school committee members, I know we've all reviewed this. Do we have anything else that we require on this one?
It's not a requirement, but just from a kind of a flow in consolidation. Remember, we have the policy, and then we're going to look at the procedures and guidance. And do we kind of just incorporate this, because it is part of a mask. It's just when they can take them off and when that occurs. So just from putting all information into one location, maybe we can just combine it with that. But I was okay with what was written. It's just a question of how it's delivered.
Yeah, I would agree, Nancy. I think we can mark this complete, but Nancy, when you all are reviewing kind of the three documents, maybe the mask break protocol is incorporated into one mask document. That's a supplement to the policy, just so we don't have people looking at three different documents to get information on masks.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we can go ahead and mark this one completed. So daily attestation solution. So I know that I know that right now that staff and students that are coming in the building are being asked to self diagnose or just self-check, I should say, for any COVID symptoms. And we've asked for a more formal thing for at least the staff on marking something down that says that yes, they have verified that they don't have any COVID symptoms. So Nancy, I know that you had gone back to our legal counsel to ask some advice on that. So if you want to just let us know what he said and then where we go from there.
One of the things we did over the summer was for all staff entering the building and during the first students coming into the building, because during the summer there were a few special needs or students with special needs who received services. So at that time, all staff did a self check and attestation of having no symptoms, of having not been in contact, and of having not traveled in a Google form. And so we did that and monitored it. We did it weekly. And then with the directive that if anything changed within the week, they needed to fill it out again and let us know and immediately contact their supervisor. So when I checked with legal counsel, he said it was important that whatever we put in place, that we actually have due diligence in our follow-up, because if there's a process like we did this summer, but we just did it and didn't check to see what the results were, then that creates, liability might be a strong word and he can explain it better, but it creates an obligation on our part to follow up with it. So whatever we do put in place, there needs to be follow through in terms of checking it. So that's basically there was a terminology he used that I'm not pulling out of the air right now, but it was basically good follow through and making sure that we check whatever instrument we do put in place.
So Nancy, you talked about the Google form for the staff. So if we look at both staff and faculty and staff separate than students, is it feasible to do something, whether it's the app or the Google form, for the faculty and staff?
I think we have over 200 faculty and staff members, close to 230. And so that is a large number to check. Terry did did get some quotes for the app. There is a cost to it that I think it would be a more reasonable cost just for staff. And I think it is a manageable amount of checking the 230, especially if we did it weekly with the admonition that you have to, and you're required to, let us know if anything changes from whenever you do it Sunday night or Monday morning before coming into work.
Terry, how much is the app?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
I think it was 7,800 or 8,000.
Well, that was for everybody.
That's for everybody.
That was for everybody. I would estimate that it's probably going to be somewhere in the vicinity of around between $200 and $300 a month, if it's just staff.
Okay, so that's.
Madam
I
Chair.
think- Yes, Mr. Catalano.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You were going to say something. I think, and I've stated this before, I think we should be doing this on a daily basis. I think it should be everyone coming into the buildings, students, faculty, and staff. I think it's not just a symptoms thing. It's also other questions to be asked about exposure and travel. And I would hope that if we're going to do something, we're going to do it right. So I'll appreciate our legal counsel's advice. I know that we would do it right. And not doing it is not really a good option because we don't want to do it right. So I think we should look at the questions we're asked. And I, for one, think we should be doing this on a daily basis. And I think it should be everyone coming into the buildings.
Can we use COVID money for this?
I'll have to look at the Town Cares Act. I think, well, if you can, you're only going to be able to use it through December because both of the grants go away in December.
Well, that's okay. It can
So-
get a little bit of free.
You
Right.
get a little, so I guess the answer is probably yes for a little while. How is that for an answer?
That's
Real specific.
Fine.
It's better than no.
So how about we do this? Can we get some more information on the app, how it's set up? I assume that the app has some sort of exception reporting. So it's not some of us looking and reviewing who's checked in or I don't know if
Yeah,
that's the right word, that it just spits out a report of who didn't, right?
Right. It's really,
Or it's the yes, or it's if you're answering a question that triggers additional questions or sort of intervention, that's what you'd want to know. It's not necessarily that they just did it, but they answered a question correctly, but not an answer you want.
it actually has a series of questions, including the travel questions and such. And I think to some degree you can customize it for your state, but it's really a twofold as far as the reporting. One is that you get something on your screen, and basically if it's red, it means you can't come in the building. But because you don't want somebody necessarily stationed there either, you get a backup to that, which is and particularly for young children who might not be able to do this on their own, you actually get a report. So you get a complete database, every day or whatever your reporting period is for everyone who's required to report on this. And that's the part that is kind of some intensive follow-up, because you're talking about 1,183 students and 230 staff that have to be reviewed every day.
So here, I think for faculty and staff, it's a definite yes. We need to do something. I think it's common practice now for anyone going into any public building or work building that they have to fill out something. I'm a little on the fence, and I know I may be in the minority here on the students. I just don't know with the population of students that we have. Does everyone have a device? Do they have do parents have the ability to do this prior to school? Are parents getting up and leaving for work early? I don't know if there's too many. I guess I'm on the fence, and I think that we as a committee and the admins, need to talk through this. Are we setting ourselves up for this not to work? So I don't know.
Why don't we take it to the next
I'm on
step?
the fence for kids.
No, why don't we at least, obviously we have some research to do on the questions to ask, because even if we can't get the app, we still need to do something on our own. So the questions we want to ask, and then figure out what how it would look if we were going to do it on our own or on an app, and then maybe that can help dictate for the students. And then maybe that's a weekly one from the students on Sunday night where the parents are answering a bunch of questions with an admonishment at the bottom saying, if anything changes, you need to let us know. I mean, unfortunately, we had a district near us where they sent a child who was positive to school. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but it also happened somewhere else. So we have to plan for the worst possible scenario. So I think the more we can do to plan, because this is also, it's setting a mindset by filling this form out on a daily basis. It's establishing, I need to think about this. I'm having an impact on our greater community.
Agreed. All right, so I mean, obviously this one's still open. Let's start with,
yes.
Nancy, I think you said that you already had an attestation that you used during the summer. So maybe if we can kind of share questions. A daily attestation is meant to be brief and just a few simple questions. And then, Terry, if we can get some more information on the app and maybe a demo or something, or I don't know of how it works or what we get out of it. And then we can try to quickly review this and get this going. Excuse me. Okay, so we'll leave this open. We'll come back to dates. I do notice that I skipped over our lunch protocol. That was not on purpose. So let's go back up to the lunch protocol. I know we were given a CFB lunch protocol document. Is there anything else that we require on the lunch protocol?
For me, nope.
Okay.
I'm saying no.
So that we got the CFB one. We'll just need one from the middle school, high school.
Okay. So we'll come back, we'll circle back around. I know they've been working,
Right.
Maureen and Bob had talked about
Right.
the CAF being set up. So I think that's still in progress. So
Yep.
We'll leave this open, well, let's just say this. Can we say complete for CFB, open for middle school, high school?
Sure.
Okay. All right, let's do that. Contact tracing protocols. I know that we had our last school committee meeting was with the Millis Board of Health and our school nurse staff. We went through this contact tracing. Is there anything further that the school committee is looking for on this? No. All right, I'm going to take silence as no. So let's go ahead and mark this complete. And then same thing with exposure protocols. I think we talked through these scenarios in that prior meeting. Also, we have a document here that we had reviewed. Is there anything further on this that you all would like to see, or are we good with this one?
I think we're good.
We put out a good visual too, at least to the elementary school families, that you might want to include here too. That was sent out.
Perfect. We can add that. So we will mark this complete. So one thing, and we did have this note down here, should we post all these to the Millis Updates website once they're marked complete? So Nancy, I guess I'll ask you, and we can follow up with you and Jody tomorrow and in the coming days, that we just make sure that any of these protocols or documents that have been marked complete, that we get out to the parents, however you see the best way to get that out, but definitely put them on the website. Okay, so let's go back to these open ones and see if we can just kind of put some dates to them. So just reviewing the kind of mask documents. This one seems like it's not too much of a heavy lift. Nancy, do you have, can you throw out a date that we can kind of throw on here for that?
Yeah, I think we can do that by next week's meeting.
Okay.
The 29th.
All right. Perfect. Thank you. So metrics for moving between learning models. So this is the one where we're meeting with the Health and Safety Committee meeting next week. I'm sorry, tomorrow. Hopefully be done by the end of the week. We may, if we can update people if it goes longer, but for now, let's just say a TBD of the next meeting, Denise, or an estimated date. Let's put our next meeting.
Okay.
That may be optimistic, but we'll go with it. So learning plan for students opting to say full remote when hybrid learning. Oh, so this is really just what does hybrid look like? So I know this is, we're asking for a little bit of more information here. I don't, what are you all thinking? Next week too quick, maybe 10-6, or what do you think?
I don't want to, I need to check in with principals and Jen. I think, you know, and as you said, maybe we can do it a little bit of a model of how it looks like at the elementary, middle, and high school, and maybe even primary, the intermediate. I don't want to get overburden people.
So I'll let you come back with a date.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally during our walkthrough, but like as Steve mentioned, we can get that. We are going to need to we are going to need to be comfortable with this before our vote with hybrid.
Yeah, and I this is our area of expertise. This is where we rock, and this is where Millis is ahead of the game and has been doing hybrid and blended learning for a long time. So we do want to share with the committee some samples. But as Jen said, you know, I think it, and I think Mark alluded to as well, it may not look the same for every teacher, even at a grade level, because of preferred teaching styles, et cetera. So we'll give some ideas, but it's, I think you yourself, Carrie, said it's not one size fits all. But I think we've proven over and over again that this is an area where Millis is really quite good, the personalization and the blended learning.
Agreed. We're not looking for you to detail out every single option, but we would like to see what it would look like in each school, an option or two. And if it's a teacher that walks us through how they're setting up their classroom, or it's the principal that walks us through an option, we would like to see that. Okay.
Madam Chair?
So, yes,
Sorry,
Ms.
just
Gibbons.
So I think the intent here is just for examples. So not what every room is going to look like by any stretch. It's just examples from each building. I think that would be, I think that's all we're looking to understand a little bit.
Certainly.
Okay, building traffic readiness. I think we set a date there, Denise, for, was it 10-6 or 10-7?
I'll put the 7th.
Perfect. So staffing update. Nancy, when do you want to put a date?
I'll give information next week, and actually I can update the committee each time we have a meeting, because we are actively trying to recruit and hire and put in place the and training our substitutes, as Ms. Jango mentioned. So, but we'll have the bulk of the hiring introductions for the committee next week.
Perfect, thank you. Airflow study. Terry, I know we talked about this. I am a little concerned with the 10-6 date. If there's anything we can do to pressure the contractor to get it to us sooner, knowing that our teacher agreement is also contingent on this too. So, hopefully it comes back all fine, but the thought that if there's something that we need to address and we need time to address it, that doesn't give us a lot of time.
I will speak to them. Again, this is, it's pretty straightforward work that they're doing, and they have the advantage of having the CBI study. So again, I'll be speaking with them tomorrow. See what I can do.
Okay, thank you. We got a bunch of completes here. daily attestation.
I think I can certainly give you an update on the app next week.
Okay, thank you. And in between, I know that we'll go back and forth on questions and that type of thing. So that
Yep.
would be good.
Yep.
And then the last two, Denise or Robin, whoever's typing in there, the last two were completed, the contact tracing and exposure protocols. Okay. So we have a few things open here. And again, just for any of the public that are watching this is not our all-inclusive list. This was a subset of it, although it's a good chunk of it. And then perhaps at the next meeting, we can go back through any open items that are left in the entire list and get some dates, knowing that our date for hybrid is fastly approaching, and it's, you know, we hope and it's our intent to get kids to hybrid, but there are a few things here that we need to wrap up before that can happen. So thank you. Okay. So again, I just want to say one more time, if there was any questions on anything that we talked about regarding the superintendent search or the back to school plan or anything, just please email the school committee. It's sc922@millisschools.org. I don't know how, I'm not quite sure how long that email stays active, but of course, if there's anything after this meeting, and if that email address is not active, you can always email the school committee and we'll do our best to get back to you in a timely manner. So I think if I look back at our agenda items, I believe we've gotten through everything. I know we have an executive session here. Do we have anything for executive session?
Actually, we do. Just the slight amendments to the MOA.
Okay. Okay. Then is there anything else from the school committee members while we have the whole team here? Any other questions? Or would like to make a motion to move to executive session?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conroy.
I would make a motion that we move to executive session for the purposes of collective bargaining with union.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? I believe we need a roll call vote for this. Robin Briggs? Was that a yes?
Yeah, I hear me.
Yeah, thanks. Steve Catalano.
Yes.
Mark Conroy.
Yes.
Denise Gibbons.
Yes.
All right. It has, and I'm a yes. So that has passed. We will now end our public session for the school committee on 9/22, and we will move to executive session. So thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good night.